The next video I want to show is that we have got an extensive installation instructions, but like me, who doesn't like to read, we've decided to do this little video to help builders lay it. Now these tips I'm going to share with you are tips that builders have given us. The first thing they clearly tell us is make sure you get your joists level, and if the quality of the joist is not there, spend some time planing it and getting it flat. Because one of the benefits of Maglok Dragonboard is that the deflection is so low, hence you can tile onto it straight away without any knocks. But the negative of that is you need to get your joist straight. And it's far better to spend an hour getting your joist straight and nice and flat than it is to be paying some flooring contractor to put levelling compound over it so they can lay the floors. So very simply, I was on a job the other day and these guys use pretty out a container load a month of our flooring, and they showed me what they were doing. So on the whiteboard very shortly I'll show you some very clever tricks of how they were laying that together and how to put the glue down. The important thing to do is to use the right glue for the shiplap, which is the Gorilla Grip from Holdfast, the 1 hour Gorilla Grip, because it expands into the shiplap and makes sure you get a really tight join, very strong, and also that glue's been tested. In fact, when it goes hard, if you try and break it, the actual sheet will crack before the joint will crack. Okay guys, these are some tips I've learned from talking to builders who lay this every day on big large jobs. Assume this is your boundary joists. This is your joist running at 450s or 400s, whatever you span them out at, or even 600s. They say to lay the first layer of sheets right along your joist to the end of the house and loose lay them. Do not screw them down at this stage. Remembering, of course, you've already checked that those joists are nice and flat, and hopefully you're using steel joists because they're now becoming the preferred joist system. Anyway, lay the first layer of sheets right down there with no screws. Run a string line right up that shiplap joint to get that shiplap dead straight. Don't worry about this side, you can always trim it up with a school saw, lay it up with your plunge saw. Once that's laid, which is that one there, with the shiplap facing there, and you're happy with it, screw it off. Now, traditionally, you would then lay the glue all the way through the shiplap there, which is the 1 hour Gorilla Grip expanding polyurethane adhesive. And the boys tell me that normally they would lay that whole strip and then they'd bang the sheets down and do it like a brick pattern so that you're not following the same line. But sometimes if they get there, the expansion has started and they can't get the shiplap nice and tight. So they don't run the glue on the sheet, on the ground as traditionally. What they are doing is they are getting the next sheet, which is this one, ready to lay, and they're simply putting the glue in that corner and then dropping that down onto the shiplap, which is already on the ground. Now the good thing about that is any excess glue is now coming out the bottom of the sheet, not out the top, so you're not having to go and clean it all off later. The other good thing is we're getting a very good bond between that surface and that surface of the shiplap, and we're not getting, as I say, glue pouring out the top. So these are just some of the tips the guys are saying. So just glue that sheet, lay it, glue the next sheet, lay it, glue the next sheet, lay it, and then screw it off. Now if you get across the other side of the building and you only need a 300 sheet and you want this shiplap, well, you don't want to keep having to cut off the left hand side of the sheet all the time, because as I said, you're laying the sanded side up. You can flip the sheet over and use the other side of the shiplap. It doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt, the product's just as strong, but we prefer the standard side up, but you can flip it over if you do need to use the shiplap so you're not wasting material. So those are some of the tips the boys are saying. Use a collating gun, a quick drive gun with the correct screws, of course, the class 3 galvanized screws, and you can screw off them very fast. Guys that can handle the guns well can actually even do the 12mm off the edge on the butt joint without any breakouts. Make sure you come in 50mm from your edge of your shiplap, but 12mm on there. If you are worried about not handling the collating gun, you can just screw them off with your ordinary drill. But I've seen these guys we've got guys now laying this floor as fast as they've laid particle board or plywood once they've done a couple of floors. End result, she's solid, she's never going to squeak, the rain can come down on it forever, and you've got a superior floor which is quiet, and the customer will love you forever. I get asked a lot about cutting it. Well, the obvious thing is, under health and safety rules, you're meant to have a vacuum saw for any type of cutting, and the builders show me that a plunge saw on a guide rail, like a Makita saw with a vacuum saw, it cuts like butter. I've personally laid many floors myself and it just cuts beautifully. So cut it with a plunge saw with a guide rail, and you'll find it very, very simple. The other key thing is to make sure that obviously for health and safety you wear a mask. Now there's no nasties in this. Remember, magnesium you take for health tablets. It contains no silica, but it does have fiberglass mesh in it for reinforcing. Therefore obviously you need to wear a mask. But regardless or not, a mask is mandatory these days. You'll find if you check the shiplaps on the sheets, which are 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters, sometimes, very, very seldom, the shiplap can come off the machine wrong. If you find a shiplap that's very thin, say 2 or 3 millimeters, firstly put it aside and use it as a cut sheet or get it replaced. We haven't had much problem with that problem, but the manufacturer tells us sometimes the speed that these things are made, you can get the odd sheet in the pile that's not the spec. So we're happy to replace that. It hasn't happened much, but if you do, you can always use it for a cut sheet where you don't need the shiplap, but by all means put your hand up and we'll replace it. The other thing I've had from many builders to say is have a positive attitude. It is not timber. It is not as simple as cutting a piece of plywood or particle board. It is a little bit more fiddly to lay. It's slightly more heavier, maybe about the same as particle board, half a kilo per square metre more, so it's not a big issue. It can be a little bit more dusty, so change your attitude. When the end result is, I've had builders ring me from all over New Zealand constantly saying, man, I wish I'd been laying these for years. I have a solid floor, a rigid floor, and the tilers love it, the customers love it, and we love it. So change your attitude and join the rest of the world and start looking at technologies that deliver a result for the customer, not just the easiest one for you to lay. Before we hit the off button and you say you've been talking too long, for those who are in Auckland, we have an innovation hub in Ellerslie which has all the systems laid, showing sound down floors, laying it on steel trusses. In fact, the world uses steel trusses more than timber trusses now. In fact, when I first researched the product, every user of the product that we're using Dragonboard worldwide, from the UK to Ireland to America to Canada, they all lay the floors on roll form steel joists. They don't use timber, and we're now seeing that happening in New Zealand. One, because we can't get the timber and we can't get it straight. So if you're using a posi strut or an I-beam, that's fantastic. They usually straight and true. But if you can't get straight timber, have a think about a steel house easy joist. They're very fast to lay. They span up to 7 meters without any deflection, and the sheets lay on them very, very fast. And they can just screw straight through. In fact, we have most of our major customers now have changed to laying Maglok Dragonboard on Steelhouse Easy Joist trusses with great success. So thanks for watching this. If you need to give us a call on anything, please do not hesitate.